before this episode, if you want to see the words as well as hear them, get exclusive content, access to the regular episodes before anyone else, and take part in the monthly questions and comments edition, you can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify and get all of that for the price of a very average coffee a month. Okay, let's get on with it. This is Kouri Richins speaking at her sentencing with a lack of a reliable denial that she killed her husband. She didn't say, "I didn't do it." She said this instead.
I can beat myself up about how I could have been a better person, but murder? No, absolutely not. I will not accept that.
She used manipulative language, saying she cares, and then not stating what she would like or what she would want, but what she needs.
I do care what you boys think, and I need you boys to know the truth.
And she talks of fighting forever, leakage that she knows she won't win this one.
I will never quit or give up on this fight for justice, the truth, and coming home to you.
But there's much, much worse to come, as we'll see. Welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If you're a returning viewer here, you are going to find this episode so interesting. If you're new here, what I do is look at the words that people speak, and only the words. I've studied the words of thousands of criminals, so I can show you how people use words to lie, to cheat, and to manipulate, and I can show you what the truth sounds like too. So let's look at Kouri Richins speaking this week at her sentencing, and she took an opportunity not to plead for a lighter sentence, but basically to manipulate her children in the most horrible way, as we'll see. She spoke for 40 minutes. Most of it was bland. It was vacuous. It was really empty. Things you could get on the inside of a greetings card. But I'm going to show you the most evil moments that reveal through her words who she is. Let's start at the very beginning of her sentencing statement.
My sweet baby boys, I know that today you don't want to speak to me, have a relationship with me, or you may think you hate me, and that's okay. I will never be angry at you for your feelings. When the day comes that you're ready, I will be here for you, waiting for you, and loving you. But I need you boys to know and understand that I have been desperately trying to get in contact with you any way that I can for years. That all of my communication has been completely cut off from you since early 2024. And now I will use any opportunity I can to get a message to you. Even if that means sharing it publicly to the world, fully restrained, in my jail clothes, in one of the most horrible situations possible. I don't care, and I'm not embarrassed or ashamed by any of it. All I care about is you boys. I will do whatever it takes for you to hear the truth from me and to come home to you. For the time being, I don't know when that is or when my next opportunity will be. So for now, bear with me as I have tried to consolidate everything I've wanted to share with you for the last few years, with everything I want you to know until I'm able to speak to you again, and one long message.
So that's how Kouri started her statement, an allocution statement, supposedly, but it was a message to her boys, or at least that's who she said it was to. But you can hear in that there is another, at least one more audience there, which I think is just getting revenge on the Richins family, revenge in her words. So she starts off by saying, "My sweet baby boys." Now, she's taken ownership of the boys there and she called them my sweet baby boys. Now, I'm not knocking you if you call your children my son, my daughter, my kids. That's absolutely fine. But what I'm doing here is building a pattern of how Kouri speaks, and she's taking ownership there of the children. Me. Kouri comes first. The very first word she said, "my," was about me. "My sweet baby boys, I know that today you don't want to speak to me." So once more, she's talking about what she knows. Kouri is the priority right here. What I know is the priority. What I found interesting was, I know that today you don't want to speak to me. And listen, as we go through this, I think she's genuinely optimistic about, the kids wanting to talk to her at some point again, getting out of prison at some point, because there are signs in her words that she is optimistic. As deluded as that may be, I'm not here to cast judgment. I'm here to show you what's in the words. And I know that today you don't want to speak to me infers that she thinks that there will come a time when they do. So I know that today you don't want to speak to me, have a relationship with me. You may think that you hate me. Notice, you don't want to speak to me, you don't want to have a relationship with me, and then it's only you may think that you hate me. She's telling them what's going on in their own heads. It's not that you hate me, you just think that you hate me. She's controlling her children through this speech and telling them what it is that they think. They have no say in the matter. Kouri is dictating to them what their thoughts are. And I'm going to show you as we go through this why that is evil and damaging. And that's okay, she says. So, again, Kouri, above everyone else, she's here to kind of say, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, not a problem. I'm the one who decides how things are. That's okay. I will never be angry at you for your feelings. Now, there we go. I will never be angry with you. That's in the future. I will go for a run tomorrow morning. That is in the future. It's not, I am not angry at you for your feelings, which would be in the present, which suggests to me there is some anger there from Kouri towards those feelings, because she's only saying in the future, I will never be angry, but not, I'm not angry. That's not what she says at all. It's not in her words. And if someone doesn't say it, let's not assume it. Also, this is a statement in the negative. She doesn't say, I'm fine with that, which would be a statement in the positive, telling us what she is, which is, I'm fine. Instead, she's telling us she'll never be angry. So although she's saying she'll never be angry, the focus is on the anger. So therefore, anger is in her head. Now, I was watching this live at the time that she did it, and this was 15 seconds in with the words that you can see on the screen if you are watching this episode. And I went, wow, because in that so-called statement to her children, mention of the boys, 4. Mentions of Kouri there in that opening 15 seconds, 6. This is someone who loves talking about themselves above all else. We have another sign here that she is optimistic. She has some optimism in there. When the day comes that you're ready, and it's a recurring theme that things will change, that the current jam she's not in will not be her jam forever. When the day comes that you're ready, I will be here waiting for you. I will be here for you, waiting for you, and loving you. Again, that's in the forward tense. I will be loving you. Is she loving right now? And then she says, but I need you boys to know and understand that I have been desperately trying to get in contact with you any way that I can for years. Now, that word but starts this passage here, and but signals everything I've said before is less of a priority than what is coming next. Everything after the but is more of a priority. And what comes after the but? What Kouri wants. Actually, it's not what Kouri wants, it's what Kouri needs. And she's putting that above everything else. But I need, not I'd like. I really hope you boys know and understand. None of that soft language that gives them agency. She's controlling them. I need you to do this. Now, that's fine when children are very young. You need to eat your food. You need to tidy your bedroom. These children are slightly older. Also, they've kind of got the upper hand of freedom at this point, but she is trying to control them from her sentencing hearing, where she's being sentenced for murdering their father. She's still trying to control them. I need you boys to know and understand. I also want you to just remember she's told them what she needs, okay? Right now, she's told them something she needs, which is to know and understand. I have been desperately trying to get in contact with you any way that I can for years. And that word desperately doesn't need to be there. I have been trying to get in contact with you any way that I can for years means the exact same thing as desperately trying, but she's just turning up the severity, turning up the intensity of what it is she's saying by adding that intensity, persuasive word, desperately. I haven't just been trying to get in contact with you. I've been desperate, persuasive, to make us really think that, oh my God, she's been desperately trying to do this. The word doesn't need to be there. When it doesn't need to be there, ask why it's been put in there. She carries on, that all of my communication has been completely cut off from you since early 2024, and now I will use any opportunity I can to get a message to you, even if it means sharing it publicly to the world, fully restrained, in my jail clothes, in one of the most horrible situations possible. Now, couple of things I want to point out about that paragraph. Notice she says that she has been completely cut off since early 2024. Just remember that because it's going to come up later. And then I will use any opportunity I can to get a message to you. This is all about control. And this is all about, someone who is not questioning what's gone wrong with communication. Who doesn't want the communication? Maybe the boys don't want the communication. And we heard what they had to say. And I have to say, The statements that were given in the court by the children's advocates were very, very powerful. And I'm not going to analyse those because I don't want to analyse the children of or victims of a crime as much as I want to analyse this. But in some ways, I'm sorry, I'm giving Kouri's words airtime. Hopefully, I'm doing a lot to deflate them rather than these children. But look, I'll use any opportunity I can. I will stop at nothing. This is someone who was in financial trouble and decided the way out was to take control and kill her husband. And we're seeing that in her words, this control. I will use any opportunity. I'll stop at nothing. I will not take anyone else's views into consideration. I'll do what I want. Thank you very much, is what she is saying. Also, I think this is like, putting some blame on the Richins family, who she blames for cutting off this communication. So when I say two audiences here, this is not for her children as much as the people that are sitting behind her husband, Eric's family. I don't care, and I'm not embarrassed or ashamed by any of it. All I care about is you boys. I will do whatever it takes for you to hear the truth from me and to come home to you. So more control, eliminating her children's feelings. I don't care. I'm not embarrassed or ashamed by any of it. Maybe they are. Yeah, but that doesn't enter into her head at all. And also she says, all I care about is you boys. But when someone talks in these absolutes, they're never true, right? We've all got children. No, well, we don't all have children. That's unfair. I'm talking in absolutes, and it's not true. Lots of us have children, and we might say things like, all I care about is you, but we know we care about other things, whether that is the food that we eat, the money that we earn. All I care about is you boys is being convincing. It's all I care about. You've got to believe that. And we'll see, there are other things that she cares about as she goes on talking. But this is all about control and the sense that she's not going to stop because she's doing what she wants to do, and other people's opinions, boom, be damned. Then she says, for the time being, I don't know when that is or when the next opportunity will be. So we've got for the time being. Again, I think there is genuine optimism in her. It might be misplaced, but it is inside Kouri that she thinks that I'm not in this situation forever. So for now, bear with me as I try to consolidate everything I've wanted to share with you for the last few years, with everything I want you to know until I'm able to speak to you again in one long message. So until I'm able to speak to you again, that's that optimism coming through. And here's everything I want you to know. And I know she can't listen while she's standing in court in her shackles, giving a statement at her sentencing. But this is all one-way communication, What do you do when you write an email? You start two-way communication. I hope you're well. How was your weekend? All those things. None of that from her. I hope you're doing all right. I don't know because communication's been cut off, but I hope you're doing all right. She doesn't do any of that. Now, listen, the whole speech was like 40 minutes long. I managed to take out everything in it that was just kind of bland and generic. I've got about 9.5 minutes to listen to. This is the next part.
And although you may not be ready to hear it today, that's okay. My hope is one day you will be. May 6th of 2024, temporary custody was transferred from the state of Utah Child Services to your Aunt Katie and Uncle Clint. My last video call with you boys was several weeks prior to that, around April 24th, 2024, when you were still in the state's custody. Once temporary custody was transferred to Katie and Clint, against my wishes, they cut off all of my communication between you boys and I. It was years before I would ever have a trial. I warned social services that if they gave custody of you to the Richins family, it would be the last time I would be able to see or speak to you boys again. And your opinion of me in this case and wild allegations would soon mirror those of the Richins family. And that's exactly what happened.
She starts off that section there by saying, and although you may not be ready to hear it today, that's okay. My hope is one day you will be. Optimism there again. And once more, her saying, that's okay. Like, I am just allowing that. She doesn't say anything empathetically like, I understand that. I get it, or anything like that. No, just, that's okay. Like the Queen has decreed, that's okay. Then we've got something interesting on the dates. Remember that, I haven't been able to speak to you for years and for over 2 years. May 6, 2024, temporary custody was transferred from the state of Utah Child Services to your Aunt Katie and Uncle Clint. My last video call with you boys was several weeks prior to that, around April 24th, 2024, until you were, when you were still in the state's custody. So, you know, she said it was early 24, that was the last time she spoke to them. And now it was April 24th, 24, which is not early. It's certainly not early. So she's using language to create more distance, more size to things than is the actual truth. It's really hard to not tell the truth, right? It's really hard because you'll contradict yourself at some point. It's just not worth doing, but she's using persuasive language and maximizing things. So referring to April 24th as early 24, because that makes it sound more egregious towards her. There's a little stutter in there, she said, when you were in the state's custody. She spoke for 40 minutes. Very few stutters. Very, very few stutters. That's quite unusual, actually. Now, we've heard about that intro part to it there. She is now about to tell the boys that they are being abused. And I found this horrible because her intent is for her boys to hear this and understand the situation that they are in, to understand what sort of life it is that they are living. And the one she portrays to them is horrible. She says, once temporary custody was transferred to Katie and Clint, against my wishes, they cut off all communications between you boys and I. It was years before I would ever have a trial. Listen to. I warned social services that if they gave custody of you to the Richins family, it would be the last time I would be able to speak to you boys again. So now she's saying, you're with horrible people, you know? And also, again, I warned because she's in charge. She's in charge and she was doing the warnings. It's not, you know, I was worried that. I warned people that this would happen. And she's saying, you boys are in a horrible situation with this horrible aunt and uncle that are cutting off your communication with your mum. Your opinion of me and this case and wild allegations will soon mirror those of the Richins family. And that's exactly what happened. She is telling the boys here how they think and how they feel. You know, she's telling them that you only feel this way because you're mirroring someone else. She's not giving them any agency at all. And but she hasn't spoken to them for 2 years. So how does she know? Well, she heard the sentencing reports that they gave, but she's probably been told, boys don't want to talk to you. And she's blaming that on the Richins family, not on any of her actions at all. No accountability, huge narcissism of, you know, I am in charge. I decree what is okay. I'm the one that delivers the warnings, but telling the boys basically they're being abused, that your contact with your mother has been cut off, and that's the horrible situation that you guys are living in. I did not like that from her one bit. I doubt I'm going to like this next bit anymore.
You need to know the Darden side of the family fought a long, hard battle for custody, but was eventually ignored and denied. Since temporary custody was granted to Katie and Clint, they have not allowed me to see or speak to you. No more video calls, no more visits. They blocked the phone number for the jail so I can't call you. Birthday cards, Christmas cards, the letters I would send you boys, they were all returned or rerouted. All of my contact was cut off more than 2 years ago. So please ask them. Please ask them for your cards, for your letters, if I tried calling you. Please just ask them, whether it's now or in 10 years.
She starts off there once more by telling the children what they need to know. Commanding, you need to know this. She could have stated it as, my side of the family fought a long, hard battle for custody. But no, she can't help but put that controlling language in there. Listen, if someone tells you what you need to know or need to do, it's a red flag. That is a controlling person, and that's what we see here with Kouri. You need to know the Darden side of the family fought a long, hard battle for custody, but was eventually ignored and denied. Since temporary custody was granted to Katie and Clint, they have not allowed me to see or speak to you. No more video calls, no more visits. The abuse that you guys are suffering, again, she's telling them. They blocked the phone number for the jail, so I can't call you. Birthday cards, Christmas cards, the letters I would send you boys, they were all returned or rerouted. Interesting that she is using past tense here, so she's currently not trying to send them anything for some reason. Maybe she just knows what's going to happen with them, but she uses past tense. The letters I would send you boys, so that's in the past, not the letters I do send you boys. They were all returned or rerouted. So her language is leaking out there that she's not bothering to write to them and try to get through to them anymore. She says, all of my contact was cut off more than 2 years ago. So please ask them. Please ask them for your cards, for your letters, if I tried calling you. Please just ask them whether it's now or in 10 years. And all of a sudden, we've got some politeness. It's not you need to ask them. It's not you need to tell them any of this. It's please ask them. Please ask them for your cards, for your letters, if I tried calling you. Please just ask them whether it's now or in 10 years. So that sudden politeness that she's switched into is to get what she wants, which is to speak to the kids. What she wants, distrust and disharmony. She wants to sow distrust and disharmony in that family. And that's what she really wants. That's why she's suddenly gone polite to get what she wants, which is for the kids to say, oh, please do this. And then all hell is going to break loose. She's like trying to lob a bomb into the family dynamic with these kids whose mom is but at the time, about to be sentenced for the murder of her father and the father who has been murdered as well. This is so evil. I do not like this.
The one thing I need you boys to know is I did not abandon you. I did not just walk out of your lives one day to never return, to never call, to never show up. Regardless of what anyone tells you, I would never ever leave you boys. And I am so sorry if for even 1 second you thought that I did.
She says, the one thing I need you boys to know, I did not abandon you. So in here, again, the one thing I need you boys to know, how much have we heard so far that she needs you boys to know? That it's not the one thing. There are lots of things that you need the boys to know. We've got that controlling language again. It's what I need. What Kouri needs is priority right here. You know, we've heard a lot now. She hasn't spoken. I hope you're all right. I hope you're not too sad that your dad's not here anymore. None of that softer stuff at all. It's what I need you to know. The one thing I need you boys to know, I did not abandon you. I did not just walk out of your lives one day to never return, to never call, never show up. She has a big list of things the boys need to know, and this is just one more thing to put on there. She says, regardless of what anyone tells you, again, you're being manipulated, boys. I mean, you know, what effect does she hope this has on the kids, who must already be feeling insecure and kind of in a horrible situation. And now she's here sprinkling more distrust, disharmony. You know, liars are all around you, and I'm here to tell you the truth. Horrible. She says, I would never ever leave you boys, and I am so sorry if for even 1 second you thought that I did. Look, lots here saying what she's not done. I did not just walk out of your lives one day to never return, to never call, never show up. I would never ever leave you boys. I'm so sorry if you thought for 1 second I did. Lots about what didn't happen. She's not talking about what did happen at all. She's avoiding all of that. She's only focused on what didn't happen. She says, I would never ever leave you boys. I would. So again, this is in the future, not in the past. It's not I didn't leave you boys. It's I would never in the future leave you boys. Also, it's got that word never in there. You would be surprised how often never turns up when it's a lie. It sounds like such a solid word. Not at any time. That's what never means. But so many people use, you know, I would never ever leave you boys. She did leave them. You know, it's a lie, right? The word never just appears so often. When you hear it never, just don't trust it. I'm not saying the person's lying. Just don't trust it. Just back yourself. And I'm so sorry if for 1 second you thought that I did. Merest sign of remorse there. She's so sorry, but what is she so sorry for? But mostly there, lots about what didn't happen rather than what did. Here's some more from Kouri.
I'm not perfect. I have succeeded and I have failed. As a person, as a wife, as a parent, we all do. I have done plenty of things I am not proud of. Some I regret, some I don't. Some I'm ashamed of, and some I'm not. I regret things I have done right in my life to later find out they were for the wrong people. I have said things I shouldn't have. I have done things I shouldn't have. Sometimes I haven't said what I should or not meant what I did say. There are things I can't change and long overdue apologies that I owe. There are would-haves and could-haves and should-haves. We all have them. We have all done them. And you boys will too one day, but in your own way. And that's okay. That's life, and we're human. Nobody is all good or all bad. We just get portrayed that way.
Well, did you spot what she did there? She starts off by saying, I'm not perfect. Maybe one of the most straightforward things that she said in the entire 40 minutes. I'm not perfect. It's got I in it, so we know who's talking here. It's Kouri. She's talking about herself. And not perfect. So true, right? But one of the most straightforward things she said. And then she goes into something that sounds like, I'm acknowledging all the bad things I've done, but just look at the words that she uses. She says, I have succeeded and I have failed as a person, as a wife, as a parent. We all do. I have done plenty of things I'm not proud of. Now, that phrase, we all do, is doing a lot of manipulative work, because what she's saying is not just talking for herself. She's saying what I've done is something that, everyone does. We're all not perfect. Now, we are all not perfect. I'm not perfect. I haven't murdered my husband through poisoning. Do you know what I mean? Like, she is trying to say, I'm just like anyone else. I'm not perfect, but, everyone's the same as me. She's hiding in the safety of the crowd. She's got this crowd that she's bringing on her side. We all do. It's not true. It doesn't stand up to any sort of scrutiny. But what she's trying to say is, I'm just like anyone else. I'm not perfect. Well, no. You're not like everyone else. But this is you manipulating your children again and going, yeah, I've got my downsides, but we all do. Horrible. I have done plenty of things I'm not proud of. Now, here we go with, she says, I've succeeded and I have failed. So she's saying I've had successes and failures. And then she starts to lead and be very negative about herself. And I think this is leakage coming out that in retrospect, she's realizing she screwed up a lot. I have done plenty of things I'm not proud of. She doesn't counterbalance that with I've done lots of things I am proud of. She said, some I regret, some I don't. So again, leading with the negative. Some I regret, some I don't. Some I'm ashamed of, some I'm not. Again, starting with the negative. I regret things I have done right in my life to later find out they were for the wrong people. Now, that feels like a real coded message there, but she is leading with the negative, the character flaws that she has, which I think are uppermost in her mind because, wow, she's come a cropper to one of them. She says, I have said things I shouldn't have. I've done things I shouldn't have. Maybe done would be better than said, coming first. Sometimes I haven't said what I should or not meant what I did say. It's now all negative. There's no positives coming through at all. There are things I can't change and long overdue apologies I owe. There are would haves and could haves and should haves. Now this reminds me of nothing more than an abusive, controlling partner pretending to apologize and go, yeah, look, I'm not perfect, but, no one is perfect. We've all got our flaws. What are some things I can say that make me sound like I'm regretful? And here she says, there are things I can't change and long overdue apologies that I owe. She's told us she's had nothing to do for 2 years because she's been in prison and, not able to contact anyone. Why are those apologies not being offered up and sorted? If you genuinely regretted them, you don't owe them. You would just be out there and doing that. There are would haves and could haves and should haves. I just think it's a leak that she has not changed as a person, all the negative things and also the long overdue apologies that I haven't even bothered to offer. It's just words from someone trying to sound sorry who isn't sorry. And then she says, we all have them, which again is just joining in this safety in. We all have these could haves, should haves. Again, I do, but one of them is not around murdering the person that I'm married to. We have all done them, she says. So again, she's trying to just say, I'm just like everyone else. She cannot talk for herself. She cannot take responsibility for her own actions. She has to hide in this crowd of, we have all done them. We haven't all done what you've done, Kouri. And then she says, and you boys will too one day. So her hope for the boys, let's just look at it in her words, her hopes for the boys are that one day they'll ease up on her and talk to her and also telling them that you're going to make mistakes in your life too, but in your own way, and that's okay. Again, Kouri decides what's okay or not. I haven't heard her say one good thing about her sons, talk about their character, talk about how proud she is of them, wish them well in any way whatsoever, but she does know that they will make mistakes. Then she says, that's life, and we're human. Nobody is all good or all bad. We just get portrayed that way. That's life. Again, it's kind of bland. It's kind of true, but also it just doesn't mean anything deep. And we're human, not I'm human. Lack of accountability, lack of responsibility. Nobody is all good or all bad. That's true, but she's not talking about herself. She's talking about the general population again. We just get portrayed that way is what she says, which is like, again, joining herself up to everyone else. She wants to appear, I don't know, maybe not remorseful, but look as if she's changed as a person and grown as a person and admitting that she's not perfect as a person, but her words will not allow her, because I don't think it's authentic, to actually own it and just talk about herself. She has to hide in amongst everyone else. She has to go into the safety of saying, I'm just like everyone else. The only thing is, we all know that she's not. It's horrible. It's horrible. And there is still more to come from Kouri. We'll go back to the episode in a moment, but if this breakdown hits home, make sure you're following or subscribe to this podcast, because what I'm doing here isn't just a one-off episode. We are building a skill. And like any talent worth having, it takes repetition. The more you hear these patterns, the more naturally you'll spot them in your actual life. I hear it from listeners so often. Eventually, you can't unhear this stuff. You'll be in a meeting or on a call, and you'll start noticing the subtext earlier than anyone else, which gives you an edge in how you respond. If you aren't ready to commit to training just yet, but you found this episode valuable, do me a quick favour. Leave a rating or share this episode. It's the best way to feed the algorithms and ensure these tools get into the ears of the people who genuinely need them. And if you want to be more careful with how you speak, to talk with more clarity, authority and confidence, then do search for my other podcast. It's available everywhere. Just search for How Words Work. Right, let's get back to the episode.
Your dad and I were a lot of things. A mess of sorts sometimes. But we were this crazy, beautiful mess that made us a family. Because our love was enough. Our hard days never outweighed our good days. Our weak moments never outweighed our most memorable happy days. We always laughed more than we cried.
Once more here, Kouri is in the safety of the crowd and telling the kids that the dad wasn't perfect. Your dad and I were a lot of things, a mess of sorts sometimes, but we were this crazy, beautiful mess that made us a family because our love was enough. Our hard days never outweighed our good days. Our weak moments never outweighed our most memorable happy days. We always laughed more than we cried. Once more, she's using this safety of the crowd. It wasn't me that was the bad person in the relationship. No, me and your dad were both bad. Don't blame this all on me. I'm just like everyone else. No, you're not, Kouri. No, you're not.
Our love was enough to stay together, to raise you boys. Our love was enough to forgive each other when others said that we shouldn't. To do things for each other others may disagree with. Our love was enough to protect each other, even though it may cost us everything. Love can make you lose yourself. Sometimes it makes you do things you know you shouldn't, but knowing it's not wrong at the same time. Because your spouse is your person, your love is enough.
She starts off there. Our love was enough to stay together, to raise you boys. Our love was enough to forgive each other when others said that we shouldn't. To do things for each other others may disagree with. A real focus on the negative there. You know, our love was enough. That suggests there's some real problems going on there. To forgive each other, again, suggests bad things have happened. When others said that we shouldn't, so the very bad things that have happened. And to do things for each other, others may disagree with. Her focus is on the negatives that are in there. The truth leaks out in her words. Our love was enough to protect each other. Even though it may cost us everything. Oh, it really did cost everything. It cost Eric his life and it's cost you your freedom. And then she says, love can make you lose yourself. Again, she's not talking about her own personal experience. She's not talking for herself. She's talking theoretically. Love can make you lose yourself. Not our love made us lose ourselves or made me lose myself. No, she's not taking accountability or talking for herself. Again, it's this person who wants to sound like they are wise and have experienced things and talking about their own experiences, but she's not doing that with her words. Love can make you lose yourself. Sometimes it makes you do things you know you shouldn't. She's not talking about herself. Sometimes it made me do things I know I shouldn't, would be what would be more authentic, believable, and her talking about her experience. But she's talking about you. The you in question here, you know, she's talking to her children here. So she's telling them how they're going to do. There's some stuff coming up where she talks to her children that is really, really bad. But knowing it's not wrong at the same time because your spouse is your person. Well, there's a definition of love, you know, talking about your spouse. Number one, your spouse. That's a word that's on forms, you know, spouse's name, or, you know, is your spouse driving the car? That is a word that's on a form. It's not a close word to describe your husband at all, spouse. I think the last person I heard talk about spouse when I was analysing was Chris Watts. Just saying. And your spouse is your person. Again, think about how many times have you met a friend and you've said yourself when you're talking about your spouse, my soulmate, my best friend, something really close and warm. Your person is distant, just a person, and, you know, no warmth. It's a very, very cold way. Your spouse is your person. She just does not have the authentic words inside her to describe a relationship with warmth and with love inside it. Your love is enough. Again, not talking about herself, just talking in general. Your love is enough. Here's some more from Kouri.
But I did grow up with a single mother, and I have lost my father. I do know what it's like to wonder, what if Dad could have watched me graduate college, walk me down the aisle, be there for the birth of one of you boys? If only Dad were here. I do know what that's like. The lifetime of pain that brings. The sadness and the anger. I would never wish that upon anyone. Especially you boys. My own sweet babies. It's a lifetime of what ifs and if onlys. An empty hole in your heart where your dad's supposed to be. He's supposed to fill. He's supposed to walk through life with you, with us, with our family. I do know what that's like. So murder, an attempted murder, 4 years later, and it's still hard for me to say those words out loud. They get caught in my throat. I turn my stomach, and I try to avoid them as much as possible because it makes me physically sick to think about.
Once more, she is trying to display empathy, but she gets it all wrong because I don't believe that she can. Here, now look, there are parts that I haven't played where she does talk about the fact that their dad won't be there to play sports with them or train them at sports and so on, but I'm going to take this part here where she says, and she's trying to say, I was in your position too, I get it, but this is why it all falls down. I did grow up with a single mother, and I have lost my father. I do know what it's like to wonder, what if Dad could have watched me graduate college, walk me down the aisle, be there for the birth of one of you boys? Now, number one, she's just rubbing it in. Here's a message from Mom. Your life is going to be terrible because you're going to have this hanging over you for the rest of your life. Nice one there. Also, notice how she's relating to mostly female experiences there. Graduate college, anyone can do. Walk me down the aisle, mostly a female thing that dads do with their daughters. Be there for the birth of one of you boys. I get it could happen with either sex, but, you know, it's something that a female would think about a lot more. So she's got male children, but she's mostly saying how bad it is not to have a dad from a female point of view. She cannot empathise. She cannot put herself in their heads. If only Dad were here. I do know what that's like. The lifetime of pain that brings, the sadness and the anger. Hey boys, your life's going to be crap. You're going to have a lifetime of pain. You're going to have sadness. You're going to have anger. She's, telling the boys how they're going to feel. It's horrible. You'll notice that she started, I think, crying at that point. Not crying when she was thinking about her children's lives. No, she was crying when she thought about how hard her life had been because her father passed away. Then she says, I would never wish that upon anyone, especially you boys, my own sweet babies. So I would never again, we've got that word never again, and never wish that upon anyone. No, I would never do that to anyone. I would, she's not denying the fact that she carried out a murder, just that she wouldn't wish what she had on anyone, especially you boys, and taking ownership again, my own sweet babies. Now, it might all be true that she wouldn't wish it on anyone, but that doesn't say that she didn't kill him. Now, the next part that's coming is horribly, horribly manipulative and cruel. In hypnotherapy, there is a thing called implanting suggestions, which is, when we've seen the stage hypnotherapy, whenever you hear this noise, you will pluck like a chicken. Basically, what that is just giving people thoughts and embedding them inside the person's head so that that thought will affect people in the future. It could be used in weight loss hypnotherapy. You would say, when you feel like eating, you're going to remember you're a slim person and you're going to feel happy that you're a slim person, and the desire to eat will fade away. And therefore, when someone is hungry and they've done this weight loss hypnotherapy, they're going to go, I don't want to eat that. I'm a slim person. That's what seems to be happening here. She's telling the boys what they're going to suffer, and this could get embedded in their head. It's a lifetime of what-ifs and onlys. No pronouns there, by the way, that, I've had a lifetime of what-ifs and onlys, or you are going to have one. She's just saying it is. It's almost a fact. An empty hole in your heart where your dad's supposed to be. He's supposed to fill. He's supposed to walk through life with you, with us, with our family. So she's embedding these suggestions that your life's going to be crap. You are going to have an empty hole in your heart all your life. Now, some of that might be true, but she's making sure that they know it. She's making sure it's in there. And there's no hope, there'll maybe, you can replace father with a sort of stepdad figure, or, you'll get the love you want from your from your dad's family or anything like that. No hope whatsoever. She's telling these boys they're going to have a terrible life. An empty hole in your heart. And again, she can't empathize. She can't say, I have an empty hole in my heart where my dad should be. No, where your dad is supposed to be, he's supposed to fill. I do know what that's like. I mean, you might, but your empathy is really, really low. And then she goes on to say, so murder, an attempted murder. 4 years later, and it's still hard for me to say those words out loud. This is something I talk about on this channel a lot, is that criminals will downplay the severity of what they did. So I think it was Chris Watts who, murdered and was accused of murdering his wife and his children. And he said, I would never harm them. Not I would never murder them, because actually, do you know why that is? Because murder is hard for a murderer to say. Now, she managed to get the words out. And when I heard her use those words, I was like, oh, she's not, sanitizing the words. She's not like, saying, I didn't harm that person. She actually says the person, and I was like, oh, not hard for her to say. No, it didn't make me think she didn't do it, but I thought it was an interesting way for a murderer to talk about murder and attempted murder, and not to sanitize it. And then she came out and said, it's hard for me to say. They get caught in my throat. That's what happens to people who've done a crime. They find it hard to verbalize what it is they've done. They'd much rather soften it. They turn my stomach. I try to avoid them as much as possible. That's what murderers do. They avoid saying the word murder as much as possible because it makes me physically sick to think about. And look, she can talk about herself. It makes me physically sick to think about. When she wants to, she doesn't say it makes everyone, or it makes you physically sick. When she wants to talk about things about herself, she can, but she just has a real hard time doing it in any empathetic stance. And she doesn't connect with the why here. She doesn't really connect with why it makes her feel physically sick. She just talks about the feeling, but she can't, again, widen out and talk about anything that we would consider normal human emotions. Here's some more from Kouri.
Your dad's memory will always be the kind that's a physical hurt. The tightening in your chest when you think of him. Particularly on days like today, his birthday. Because he was so loved that no verdict or sentence will ever be able to release that kind of suffering. I'm broken without your dad. broken without you boys. God did not put me in this world to take a life. God put me in this world to give life. Your lives. And I don't know who or what I'm supposed to be if it's not a mother. Your mother. And as much as you've been influenced into thinking that Dad was murdered, that I took your dad from you, that is completely wrong and an absolute lie.
And once more we have from Kouri this embedded, your life is going to be rubbish. Your dad's memory will always be the kind that's a physical hurt. You guys are always going to hurt. What a horrible thing to say to your children. This is cruel. The tightening in your chest when you think of him, particularly on days like today, his birthday, because he was so loved that no verdict or sentence will ever be able to release that kind of suffering. You're going to suffer forever. Nothing will be able to release that suffering. That's cruel beyond words. And then she goes on to claim to be a victim by saying, I'm broken without your dad, broken without you boys. And this is her using manipulative language to get what she wants, which is to be back in the boy's life. I believe, my opinion, looking at it, is she's saying, you've lost one parent and now you're going to get rid of another parent. Well, look at how bad getting rid of your dad was. Think about how it's going to be without me. She says, God did not put me in this world to take a life. God put me in this world to give life, your lives. Now, that first part there, God did not put me in this world to take a life. Number one, she's invoking the deity. She's invoking God, something bad people do a lot. Oh, look, this person is talking about God's plan for them. They can't be a bad person if they're believing God and following God's guidance. But it's true, right? You know, it's a thing. It's true. And this is something that she really, when she's giving anything that is actually halfway relatable, is just a very bland truth, something anyone could say. God did not put me in this world to take a life. And I don't know who or what I'm supposed to be if it's not a mother, your mother, i.e., be nice to me. Mother me up here because this is what I need to do. You know, please let me be a mother. You don't have a father. Why not have a mother? I'm there. I'm suffering. Horrible, horrible, horrible. As much as you've been influenced into thinking that your dad was murdered and that I took your dad for you. So again, you've been influenced. There are bad people all around you and you need to watch out. Again, she's telling the children what they think and why they think it. Controlling behaviour. So as much as you've been influenced to thinking that your dad was murdered and that I took your dad from you, not that I murdered your dad, you'll notice she cannot say that correctly. Also, it didn't seem to stick in her throat when she said murdered there. Anyway, that is completely wrong and an absolute lie. So we have some persuasive language turning up the intensity. It's not just that is wrong and a lie. It's completely wrong. It's not just wrong, it's completely wrong. Well, wrong's wrong. You can't be wrong or completely wrong is more wrong. It's just completely wrong and an absolute lie. Again, turning up the intensity there. One last part from Kouri. I don't think we'll like this part anymore.
And just because someone may not be perfect, that's a far reach for them to be capable of murder. To kill someone. Our someone. Your dad was in physical pain. A lot of physical pain. And just because some people didn't know or didn't want to see certain things doesn't mean they weren't happening or they weren't true. He would have never left us intentionally. And I would have never taken him from you. From us.
So once more, just the stuff from Kouri that is not believable. She starts off by saying, and just because someone may not be perfect, that's a far reach for them to be capable of murder, to kill someone, our someone. And you'll notice Kouri's disappeared from the words here. Just because someone may not be perfect, just not talking about herself here again, just this general someone may not be perfect. That's a far reach for them to be capable of murder, not for me to be capable of murder, just them. And to kill someone, just again, the victim is not your dad, it's just someone. She's talking in theory here, in concepts. She's not talking about what happened. It's not a reliable denial. Your dad was in physical pain, a lot of physical pain. Hey kids, as if life wasn't bad enough, also know your dad was in physical pain. And just because some people didn't know or didn't want to see certain things, again, she's not being very specific here, doesn't mean they weren't happening or they weren't true. He would never have left us intentionally. I believe that's true. And, the truth will come out even in someone as diabolical as Kouri Richins. And I would never have taken him from you, from us. Again, future focus, not I didn't, but I would have never, so... It's just horrible. And that is 9.5 minutes worth of Kouri Richins' 40-minute statement. I mean, just for me, those embedded, intentions put into the kids' heads about how their life is always going to be horrible was just a cruel thing beyond belief. The controlling language, you need to do this, I need you to know that. This was all about Kouri trying to get what Kouri wanted, which is saying, hey kids, life without your dad's going to be terrible. Why not have your mom in it? Because that's what Kouri wants. She wants to be with her children. Horrible statement. Cruel beyond belief to her children. Does it make me think she could have murdered her husband? Well, if that's how she treats her children, I don't expect her husband got a hell of a lot better. What do you think? Let me know in the comments if you can, or on the socials. You'll find them all at neveratruerword.com, where also, if you're interested in the language of control and how to spot the language of control, also how to make sure you're not using it yourself, because when you use that language of control, if someone's had a relationship with a controlling person, you're going to get their backup and not get the things and maybe the warmth or the cooperation that you need. To get all of that and to delve deeper into that, check out my podcast called How Words Work. You'll find details for that at neveratruerword.com again. We'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word. And remember, the truth is always in the words.